1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast sound check. Wednesday show live. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast live, and we'll be with you in 2 minutes. Hello and welcome to the Wednesday show here on the Royal Blue Podcast. We are live on YouTube. I am your host, Ian Croll, and joining me in the Royal Blue studio today to talk all things Everton, we've got Gavin Buckland and Tony Scott. First off, Gav, how are things? All good?
Yeah, it wasn't a great week last week. I'm still fuming, for want of a better phrase, over the Michael Keane red card.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you made a point on Twitter to
Absolutely
explain to your followers why it wasn't or shouldn't have been a red card.
Religious leader or something like that. I might think I'm a religious leader, but I'm
what
not
are they?
like
The people who follow your Twitter
it's just
account?
nonsense, isn't it? It's just as Moyes said, I think Michael Ball said in his column on Monday, that's not violent conduct because he's challenging the ball. It's as simple as that. It can be considered a serious foul play, but there's far more flexibility in the law under serious foul play not to give a red card, and because it then gets about how serious, your injured opponent, what's how you tackle them or challenge them, and by the law, it's quite clearly not violent conduct, and for the commission and the VAR, whatever, assume the PGMOL on the day thinking it's violent conduct. Well, that's nonsense. I think they're protecting the referee. Basically, they don't want the referee in the second Premier League game to have a decision that's overturned and the 3-game ban rescinded because they got it wrong. I think that comes into it. Would be my thinking, because we know from ourselves how much a commission is independent is a moot point, isn't it? But yeah, I'm still fuming over that. But it wasn't a great week for us last week, and also proves one of Howard Campbell's points is back-to-back home games. Don't like. Because we had, like if you lose the first one, that puts more pressure on the second one. I think last week didn't help that all 3 games are at home.
Any home game at the minute, Gav?
Yeah. Howard had a few, ad hoc theories about the game, and one of them was don't have back-to-back home games.
Not many teams.
Just builds.
So it'd be interesting to see, look at the data and the stats. If you've got 3 home games in a week, how many teams actually win all 3?
Oh, I can give you some stats on our, but if you've had back-to-back home games in the same week, our record is absolutely appalling, even in Moyes' good teams. It's like, I'm quoting, like the last, say, 25, 30 back-to-back home games within weekday and then a Saturday. Out of 30, probably won one. Maybe won both of them.
I remember when we beat Manchester United in the season, we finished 4th. That big night game, Duncan got the winner. Then we played Birmingham on the Saturday morning and crept over the line, got a 1-1.
Yeah, like goal by Duncan, wasn't
it? And Birmingham were going down that year as well. Yeah. It's very rare, isn't it?
We never win. And as you say, Scott, if you're not in the elite, back-to-back home games can be a bit of a bind if you're playing them, 3 or 4 days apart. And our record, I must take this out at some point, and our record in that scenario is not great. I think might have been Allardyce's when he came, I think possibly, but apart from that, Moyes didn't do it. You know,
especially with this paper thin squads we've got, it's just
yeah.
it was near on impossible to win. Even though you looked at the fixtures on paper, we were all getting excited, going Wolves, Brentford, obviously Sunderland's in the cup. But when you looked at it with the likes of no Coleman, no Keane, no Branthwaite, no Alcaraz, no Rubenham, no Guy, no Grealish, no Ndai, no, obviously no Dewsbury, all, that's a big ask for anyone without the best players to be even try and get over the line in them games.
It's a justifiable reason or excuse as to why we're not playing or performing.
It's not an excuse, is it? It's more
but
it's a valid reason.
Okay, whatever way you want to look at it. But what I mean is, I'm all fully on board with that. I just think after 30 years of not winning a trophy, I just think at times excuses start to wear thin, and I think that's just my perception of it.
We're just saying that it's context.
Should that team have beat Sunderland on Saturday, or at least played better?
Yeah, well, of course.
That's where I'm coming from. Then
they should do better. Whether you beat them is a different thing. But it's just one of, obviously the fan base. There's a lot of disquiet, isn't it, this week and last week, and some of that is down to the way the fixtures were scheduled. And also as well is, that pressure builds in the fan base in the stadium, and that passes on to the players. If they're going to Sunderland on Saturday rather than playing at home, it might be slightly different. And I mean, I also think
that's a fancy does more.
Yeah, well, I like to think what the penalty stats are. Don't play home and away. Penalty shootouts. There's the more pressure on the home team. There's no excuses here. It's just an interesting thing referencing what Howard used to say, that if you have 2 home games, the pressure on the second one builds. And you should have home and away is far better as a manager, and it's just something that throw in there, really.
Now, it's fair enough. I haven't even said hello. You all right, Toe?
Yeah, of course.
I'm
fine, thanks, Gavin.
Are you up there after a bad week? Because it has been a bad week.
Listen, I always say this in terms of not getting too overly excited, and we're all obviously joking a couple of weeks ago, let's get our passports out. But listen, we're still on track for that. Honestly, you just need to take a step back sometimes and go, we've been knocked out the 2 cup competitions, but in the main, we're never going to win them. We're never going to win them cups. We'll probably get it at Chelsea or a Liverpool or an Arsenal or a Manchester City in the later rounds, and we probably
based on the draw, it would have been an Oxford away.
But you're gonna it's a semi-final, aren't you? And I don't think we've got a very good 11, but I look at the teams that win trophies on a consistent basis, or even the likes of Crystal Palace last season. They won the FA Cup. They got brilliant spine to the team. Obviously, Mark Gay, you've got Adam Wharton, they had Eze, they had Mateta, a proper spine of the team. You only have to go back to when Leicester won the FA Cup, and obviously when they won the league. We've got very good players in the team, but I don't think we've got a spine to continue to win games. And that's a big thing that hopefully that the recruitment team will be looking on. You look at all the successful teams, Arsenal this season, they go from Gabriel, Rice, and they've got Saka. They've got lots of individual players, but you get that spine right throughout the team. So we were disappointed about getting beat against Wolves in the League Cup, and massively disappointed knocked out against Sunderland. But I don't think we're equipped to win a trophy, but I think we're more equipped. It's easier now saying in hindsight we've been knocked out the 2 cup competitions, but I think we're more equipped to win maybe 2 games on the run and not have a defeat or a draw and continue to progress up the league, rather than win 5 in a cup and then it's a Chelsea in a semi, beat them and beat an Arsenal in the final. I don't think we can do that. Where I think we can beat a Fulham and we can go and beat a Bournemouth and we can gradually progress up the league. And obviously European football it's still a good possibility. We're 6 points off 6th place. 4th place. That is mind-boggling.
You're absolutely right. I don't deny it. I think patience is obviously the key. Some people are going to be more patient than others. Obviously, you can only react to what's in front of you at the time. And fans are going to do that. We're obviously going to do that. In many ways, you try to look at the bigger picture. But for fans, because you don't get told, the ins and outs of the runs of the club or who the club are going to sign or what's going to happen over the next 12 to 18 months, you're almost hoping in blind faith in many ways. So I think that's where the frustration lies. But we'll move on, because we've got a lot to speak about today. First off, obviously the usual housekeeping. Drop us a like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube if you haven't already. And as we are live, as I've said, get your questions in, get your comments in, and I'll read as many out as possible. I have got one already from Brian Burns, which I've noticed. He says, chaps, I think we need to look at the bigger picture. Too many of our best players are out. who wouldn't struggle with 8 or 9 players missing. I think in a month's time we'll be winning again. And again, you know, that's kind of what you have just touched on. So, but it's almost, you don't know what's going to happen in a month's time. There could be more injuries. There could be more, you know, suspensions. Players could be out. It's about how best to deal with squads and players missing and stuff like that.
We're not going to have the enormous amount of injuries.
Well, hopefully not. You don't know, do you?
It's virtually impossible. You've got your most creative players, your defensive midfielders, your best centre. Listen, the names there that I've just listed would get into the Everton team, no doubt. So it's hitting us so much at the moment that, yet we've had them winnable games where we all fancies ourselves to pick up some points and progress to the next round. But I think it just laid bare and how poor the squad is overall. Yet we've got a very, very good 11 that'll give most teams a game in the Premier League, which we've seen this season. But at the same token, you scratch beneath that surface and you ask your Dwight McNeil's, Michelle will talk about your Tyler Dibblings and your Merlin Rolls of the world and whatnot, to them to help you out in these key games where you're playing against a very strong and physical Brentford side. They didn't do it. They did it again. Obviously, they couldn't do it at the weekend against a very good Sunderland side. And that's the test of your squad. And if you look at it on paper, the squad is... I looked at it, that team, when you looked at, obviously, when the team sheets come in, I thought... that team wouldn't look... The squad itself, with the academy players and obviously Beto on the bench with us, and you look at that going, that wouldn't look out of place in the Championship, top end of the Championship. The squad... when you look at the team lineup, you're going, Mikalenko, and then you got...
And the warning signs were there with the team that was fielded at Wolves in the Carabao Cup, wasn't it, really? And that all ties into the recruitment theme of the pod, doesn't it, really? What recruitment have we done, whether it's work, and does that give you confidence about any recruitment we do going forward over not just in January but in the summer, and how that's going to pan out, isn't it, really?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head of what this theme of the podcast is. Today's agenda, we are mainly going to speak about Everton's transfer strategy and whether that is aligned with manager David Moyes' vision of obviously needing ready-made players, ready-made Premier League experienced players now, and what we perceive to be the recruitment team's philosophy of signing young developmental players who can grow with the club and have a sell on value. Before we do, Gav, I just want to say, obviously, Everton did release a video of Jarrad Branthwaite on the grass yesterday, I think. I think the past 2 to 3 weeks in his press conference, David Moyes has said Branthwaite is back on the grass. It did say he's resumed light training, but I don't think the club would release such a video if he wasn't close. He might not be ready for Villa, but it's a positive that we're seeing Jarrad Branthwaite.
In
the scenario that he's in.
Yeah, he's our...
we need him back, don't we?
Yeah, when fully fit, he's probably our best pound for pound player, isn't he, you would say. And enables us to not only be stronger defensively, but we can get further up the pitch, can't we? You know, as a result, because of his pace. But I think it's based on what we've seen so far this season. I wouldn't be in a rush to put him in the first team until absolutely certain, you know, that he's capable. I think I would just use. It sounds daft. Only 16 games left, but I would probably just aim this for the rest of the season is just stay fit. You know, don't overstretch yourself. Don't over compete, if you want for better phrases. Just keep your fitness between now and the rest of the end of the season, and then work again in the summer. It would be nice to see him on the pitch, definitely, but I don't want to see anything that's going to endanger his, you know, his short and medium term health, really. And so, but it is good news. But then begs the question, you know, who is the partner? Doesn't it really? There's some awkward choices if you assume that when fit he's our first choice centre half. Who would you have as his partner? I think Mikalenko's a better player than Branthwaite on the left, by the way. I think that, you know, that's one of the things with Mikalenko. He's far more effective going forward, and than when Branthwaite's covering behind him. So yeah, I think good news, but I'm not. The priority is keep him fit the rest of the season, not necessarily his level of performance. Don't want him bailing us out and then overdoing it.
Is it difficult to do that in the Premier League, Gav? We're just like I understand what you're saying in terms of like settling them in and getting a minute and all that, but at the same token, you're playing at the top level of Premier League football, where it's set pieces, it's the centre midfielders you're in your face. It's not the Premier League's not played like when Pep Guardiola first came in, where it was ticky tack, it was from the back. It's more old school now, where it's set pieces, it's in your face.
Like 2 years ago,
exactly,
is it really?
It's relentless.
No, I get that, and that presents a more physical challenge, doesn't it, than probably even last season.
Yeah, 100%.
But within that, you have all sorts of data and monitoring, really, and I think they know now if somebody's oversetting themselves or reaches the red zone, as you say, and I don't want that happening with Branthwaite. I think we have to manage it very carefully to say, you can time wait for nobody in football, and he's 23. We don't want another issue where he goes into the next season injured, which apparently has been the case for most seasons in his career. I've said before on the pod many times, haven't I? We talk about, promising young player, talent. All of a sudden, you can be in your mid-20s and you're at that level now for the rest of your career, and there's a danger if something happens to Branthwaite now, then he gets to the mid-20s and he's not had really much of a career because of injury. So we have to...
Could say the same with like Tom Davis, for example. All of a sudden he hits a time where he was a prospect of a youngster and he could go on to like great things, and all of a sudden he got injuries and all of that.
Well, Gavin was like that, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
Gavin was a promising striker 4 years ago, and now he's like 28 and you think, well, what's happened in 4 years? Yeah. And so time waits for nobody in football. And so we have to be very careful, because there's absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, he's certainly our best defender, but probably our best player when fully fit and functional. I think that's not for question, I think, on a pound for pound basis. And let's see what happens. But it's good to see him back on the grass. Whenever I hear the phrase "back on the grass," you just think of Dice at a press conference.
Well, Moyes uses the phrase as well, doesn't he?
It's obviously because they actually do go back on the grass. Have you seen at Finch Farm when they train on the grass? So obviously they have an indoor setting for the players who are like pre-training. So they have a setting indoors. So like when you actually are, you physically are, you're back on the grass to training.
It means nothing, does it, to us?
It means nothing to us, but obviously if you're working within Finch Farm or working at Everton, you kind of get what he's trying to say.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, he's back in full training.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously on that video, the little information that he did give us, he's back in light training.
Yeah.
So obviously that's why he's not going to be, or I don't think he'll be ready for Villa. Maybe Leeds.
Maybe Leeds, yeah.
But I do think we knew, like I agree with you, Gav. We need to wrap him in cotton wool. Certainly with his injury record.
Yeah. Calvert-Lewin versus Branthwaite, Leeds, a couple of weeks' time.
Oh, God. Okay, let's move on. Talk about transfer strategy. There's a lot of topics that I've kind of listed for all this. So, and one of them is, we'll come on to a lot of the other things, but this European push kind of that we're talking about at this moment in time. I mean, a comment from David Moyes over the past couple of days. Clearly, Moyes is keen for Everton to not finish the season on a bit of a downer. There's still a lot of games to be played, and like you said, I think 5 or 6 points away.
6 points off fourth place
from a potential European position, and he used the phrase, "We're going to go full throttle." This might be a bit of a crazy question, because all clubs should obviously aspire to be as high as possible and finish as high as possible, and trying to obtain a European place. But how keen do you think the hierarchy, whether that's the recruitment team or the Freakins, how keen do you think they are for Everton to qualify for Europe next season? Now, people are going to go, what sort of a stupid question is that? For us fans, absolutely, yeah, we want European football. The reason I bring this question up is because of this new squad cost ratio rule that's obviously coming in next season. And just for context, there's obviously a limit of 85% for a domestic point of view from your wages. But if you do get into Europe, UEFA have got their own rules, and that drops to 70% for the club. So in a way, all this talk of Europe is fantastic, and we want to obviously aspire to that, but it could hinder the club in some way, because you can't spend as much as you want if you earn in Europe. So obviously, there's been a reading between the lines. The hierarchy maybe don't want the club to do too much too soon. I think David Moyes was asked about that in his press conference ahead of the Sunderland game. We know Moyes' situation, 12 months to go on his contract after this. He's going to want to be as successful as possible, but the club may be looking at the long-term game. So yeah, my question, obviously, how keen do you think they are to qualify for Europe based on that?
Well, one thing you'd have to be interested to know, which I'm not privy to know, is that what are the freaking group doing behind the scenes with their other club in Italy? So we say, for argument's sake, Roma qualify for the conference and we qualify for the conference. What happens there? So you'd be hoping that things are happening in the background in terms of moving parts. You've seen what happened to Crystal Palace last season when they won the FA Cup, and all of a sudden they've ended up in the Europa because of the consequences of the co-parenting clubs. So if you were privy to them conversations behind the scenes, then you'd probably second guess that what their aspirations are for Everton this year, especially in January as well. I know you hear a lot of people saying like, "Oh, it's never a good window to sign players," but if you're in a decent position in the league, which, as I've just touched on, the league position, yeah, with 12th or 11th, whatever it may be, but it's a compact league. Obviously, as we can tell, we just touched on there, 6 points off fourth place, a couple of wins, and all of a sudden, we were talking Europe, and me and you were in the studio a couple of weeks ago, and we were saying exactly the same thing. And the thing that's hindering Everton at the moment, obviously, it's well documented, the full-backs and the centre-forward position. Yeah, we'll talk about injuries and suspensions and AFCONs all day long, but fundamentally, from now till the end of the season, if Everton was to sign a quality addition of full-back and a centre-forward, you would fancy Everton with the best players back to have a good push for European football. Now, it's what do the freaking group, the recruitment team and David Moyes, are they all on the same page? That's the big key thing here. Are they on the same page? Is Moyes looking at it beyond the next year when his contract finishes? Or is he looking to maybe go, right, I want that last year, but I want European football, get me 2 players in and I'll try my best to make sure that happens? Or do the freaking group go, right, we just want a bit of stability at this football club at the moment because it's been an horrendous place over the past 5 or 10 years. Points deductions, relegation fights, one after the other. The list is endless. So we just want some stability. Top 10 will do us. That'll fine. So it'll be interesting to see the dynamics of what the freaking group wants and what David Moyes wants. I'm pretty confident David Moyes will be banging the drum for European football at Hill Dickinson next season because this is in version 2. He's not got 11 years here like he did last time. He's got 1 year maximum. And maybe if he does get European football, he could then throw the argument to the owners, right, give me another year. Look what I've done in the first month. Look what I've done in the first 6 months keeping the team afloat in the Premier League. This time last year, we were a point above the relegation zone. I think people need to realise the job he has done at this football club in the last 12 months. It's unbelievable. Look where we are. We're talking Europe. You wouldn't have that's beyond the realms of possibility in the last 18 months. And here we are talking about recruitment and pushing for Europe. That's testament to David Moyes. And I always go on record as saying this. I think he was outside the Palace or something about 12 in the summer it was. He was getting an MBA or something.
That's
and
not Chalet Park, that's Buckland.
No, yeah, exactly, yeah. And he was asked the question about obviously your ambitions for the season. He said, I don't want this club to be in a relegation dogfight no more. I don't want it to be mid-table. I want to be pushing this club for Europe. So it's going to be interesting to see the dynamics of the conversations behind the scenes. Who gets what they want? We don't know what the freaking group want. Far from it. Do they want stability? Do they want to push for Europe? One thing's for certain, I'll bet your bottom dollar that David Moyes wants European football. And if he does get what he wants, he'll get the players in January.
I mean, Gav, bring you into this. Obviously, I've kind of mentioned that, and Tony said there, we really actually don't know the freaking's true motivation for buying the club.
Exactly, and we spoke about this briefly before we started, don't we? And I was thinking about that when I was walking over. Is this goes back to why people buy football clubs, isn't it? There's about 4 or 5 reasons why people buy football clubs. One is ego. One is, make yourself part of the, you just say, I own a football club. One is to be part of, like, say, the Premier League and all the stuff that goes with that Rasmus has. And then it becomes a bit more murky, doesn't it? You get into things like, well, if you bought it to flip the club, if you bought it for the long-term strategy of, like what you're saying there, we want in it for the long term, so we might not want to spend a load of money now, but we'd rather spend 100 million each year for 2 years and get the right players than spend 200 million in the first year and we're sort of just buying players for the sake of it. And then the other reason, which I think is relevant to the Freakins, is the multi-club ownership, that you buy a club as part of the multi-club ownership model. And then, because what we do know, and this is relevant to Everton, is Roman and Everton, if you sold them individually, is a lot less value than selling Roman and Everton collectively as a two, which is still an option, isn't it? Going forward when we talk about, that's one of the things. So why are they buying a club? And then that informs for all them different reasons. You have a different like transfer strategy, don't you? Quick flip, you might want to spend a load of money and get into Europe or whatever. Or in the longer term, you might want to keep your powder dry. If you're in, and this is for hard. If you're in for ego purposes, you spend a load of cash and just, look at me 4 number 10s on the pitch. If you're multi-club ownership, you've got to balance Roma and Everton, where you put the cash and who's doing better and all that type of thing. And we don't know why they bought the club. So really, at this stage, it's too early in the tenure. And this goes back to what your question is. So I don't know how they're going to play. Really, at this stage, at a high level, we know what Moyes wants. Moyes is in a weaker position now than what he was 12 months ago in terms of speaking with the Freakins, because he's only got a year and a half left on his contract. And the manager's never more stronger than when he just joined the football club. So he's in a weaker position. They've now got the fabled transfer committee, would you call it, in place, which they didn't have 12 months ago. And so I don't know. I mean, my guess is if I was the Freakins and Moyes on 18-month contract, I possibly wouldn't support him in the same way as somebody who's just joined the club on a 4-year deal that's in there for the longer term. Because I don't think, I'm just guessing here, I don't think that the Freakins possibly see Moyes beyond the end of his contract, because he wasn't the person that they envisaged, employing when they bought the club. That's not to say Moyes can't get his contract extended if he performs, but I'm just wondering whether they view this, if they're looking at the long term, they just view Moyes' tenure as, keep the club in a holding pattern, keep us away from relegation, and at the end of that 2 years, Dave, we've done the job. We've paid you to do. We've got the stuff in behind the scenes about analytics and academy and all that type of thing. We can got them to get all them in place, and then we will start. If we're in it for the long term, at the end of your contract, we will start the longer term view of the club. And I suspect that might be, that might be the option they go with. They just keep in the transfer market, they just keep things ticking over.
Do you think though, sorry Gav, should your transfer strategy and your commitment to be signing players all fit around what the manager wants in these 18 months? I'm just thinking out loud here. If you're if you're the Freaking group and you've got obviously a transfer committee, whoever they are, a recruitment team, then if a decent player comes up, regardless of who the manager is, it shouldn't be the question, really. It should be like, there's a decent player here. We know he's a good player. We've scouted him enough times. Go and buy him. And it's up to David Moyes to integrate him into the team. Yeah. Now, it shouldn't matter if it's Moyes or Martinez. It doesn't really matter who the manager is.
If you've got the proper thing, if you've got the
like
proper...
Brentford, Brighton, Bournemouth, they don't do that.
But do we want that goes back to, I made this point before Christmas, do we want Brentford's Bournemouth strategy when we're not clubs like them, we're a bigger club, aren't we? No, we're not here just to survive and just turn over players as part of the business model. It's what I'm just saying, it's what I think one of the options that they will go with, that we're saying, we'll buy loads of players, blah, blah, blah. They may think, well, actually, and this has not helped over the last week or so, has it really? We perhaps think that Moyes on a 2.5-year contract. We'll see that contract out while working behind the scenes on all this stuff I'm talking about. And they may not see a short-term thing about, let's spend money. And even to get into Europe now, you can really struggle the following season. There's not a lot of money in European football as well, by the way. I get it, you can get better players, what Moyes said.
Unless it's the Champions League.
I mean, Brighton lost money. They were in the Europa League.
Yeah.
They lost money.
I think
you're seeing how the likes of Palace, and I'm not saying we're the same size club, Palace here, obviously, they're obviously enormously well run, is, it's good. It's a short-term thing. They may be thinking the longer term, but then we don't know that either, because we don't know whether they're in it for the longer term.
Did they need to come out then and not even have the conversation in the club and say what type of club we are aiming to be? Did he need to come out and say that?
Yeah, there was an interesting thing in the
be transparent with the fans.
The advisory board meets the club every month or so, isn't it? There was something said about that, wasn't? I don't even read the notes.
What was the plans?
What was the plans? And like the Freakins haven't spoke to us, and I think they might be got this wrong a little bit. I think their view is like everything comes through Angus Kinnear.
Well,
You know, that's right.
That's
which
my
is fair
He's like
impression.
the
enough,
voice of...
Yeah. And you know, and I think he's been quite, you know, he's been quite open, hasn't he, on a couple of occasions. But I just think the way the club employed Moyes, because he had no choice, I don't think that leads to a longer term plan from now. I think that only leads to a longer term plan and putting that in place in terms of recruitment once, you know, whenever Moyes leaves, which could be next year, and I think that'd be perfectly fine if it goes. I'm not advocating the sacking Moyes here, Badder. I'm just saying, just taking it from the Freakins angle. If they're here for the longer term, they may just want to hold them back for 2 years. Which is a lot better than the relegation bit when they came in.
Of course.
We do need to... The club need to understand what type of club that they are and how they're going to move forward, and whether they relay that to the fans. I think they should, but I don't know. Obviously, they might think less communication on that is better. I'll come on to you now, Todd, but what I'll say is, just to top up this point, formerly of the Liverpool Echo, Matt Jones, who's now left, he put this tweet out, I think, the other day, and I thought it was really nailed what we're kind of speaking about now. So I'll read it out, and then obviously I'll kind of let you answer, because everything just feels, I think, from the summer, a bit of a mishmash of signing players from a development point of view to obviously a Kiernan Dewsbury Hope type of player who we definitely needed and who's made a huge impact, to this Jack Grealish star type of player. So Matt Jones has this tweet, credit for him there, he says, Everton need to decide what they are before the summer. If they're a team about winning and progressing quickly, sign players for that. If they're a team that's about building for the long term, get the players and the coach for that. It all feels a bit muddled at this moment in time. Now, I know it's early days for the recruitment team, but I just think Matt hit the nail on the head with all of that. And I think the summer recruitment, whether the recruitment team was fully embedded in or not, I think that's what we've got, a muddied, you know, mishmash of a transfer window.
I wouldn't say it's a mishmash. I think it's. I think we've gone the other way. So I would have preferred more Premier League proven, ready-made players than we've signed. I think we signed about 7 or 8. Obviously 2 goalkeepers, excuse me, and then a lot of them were project players, so to speak. The likes of your Azamaz, your Thierry Barry's, and obviously Tyler Dibblings. I think we went to project player rather than getting the ready-made here and now in Jack Grealish and Kiernan Dewsbury, because you could bet your bottom dollar Moyes would have preferred that to have gone the other way. So you can only sign so many. So I think it was about the recruitment team getting that balancing act between, we need some project players, but we need some players for here and now, because a lot of players that were here and now, the likes of your Abdoulaye Doucourés of the world, your Jack Harrison, your Dominic Calvert-Lewin, your Ashley Youngs, all left. So you can't just let a lot of Premier League proven players go and bring in a load of project players. We would have been filtering down the relegation zone if that was the case.
That's the point.
So without Kiernan Dewsbury and Jack Grealish, we would have been down there.
The likes of Diblin have come in and replaced a Jack Harrison or a Jesper Lindstrom, and he's had no impact, little to no impact.
So imagine
whatsoever.
a full transfer window on project players. That's what I'm saying. So it's about getting that balancing act. It's a very good job that we've signed Kiernan Dewsbury, who's hit the ground running straight away, in replacement of Doucouré. We've signed Thierry Barry, who wasn't at the ground running. And these project players, I wouldn't have minded maybe 1 or 2, 3 maximum. I thought we signed too many of them. And I get it, we cannot afford to run the football club the way we have been doing over the past 5 or 10 years, letting the countless, I think there was over 20 players signed for Everton, over £20 million on 5-year deals that left on 3. That's not sustainable for the business model in the Premier League. You cannot continue. So I understand the recruitment team signing project players to obviously play well, be successful at Everton, and then maybe sell on for a decent value. But the same token, we need a Premier League proven. And for us to have signed only 2, Dewsbury and Jack Grealish, has left us where we are right now. We should have went the other way, in my opinion.
I think we're agreeing, even though I think we're trying our best to disagree. There's a comment here, from the Blues, we needed the balance of the 2. Now, I get you need a balance of experience and youth so you can kind of push the team on, but on the back of the summer, where how many players left? It was like close to, 11 first team players, and how many were we left with? You know, that was a summer where we, like you say, should have signed at least 7, 8, 9 ready-made Premier League players.
Yeah, I agree.
The other point here, though, is we didn't have the transfer committee in place in the summer, didn't we? We only had I don't think 2 was out of the 4 were here in the summer. So I think what you would want to do if you're Nick Cox, you turn up in September, said, "Oh, we spent all our money, Nick, over 9 players in the summer. You know, like we've got nothing to play with now because of PSR." You don't want that. Yeah, I mean, and that's why I said the other week. Somebody said this on Twitter when we were talking about Jack Grealish. Said, though I was against the signing of Grealish and still am, I can see why we got him on loan for the 12 months because that just buys you time, doesn't it? So so we're going to spend 13 million on Jack Grealish, okay, over the year, but that's only 12 months. The next director, if we don't get Jack Grealish, has now got 13 million pounds to play with that we wouldn't have had if we bought somebody permanently. So I sort of get that. So we didn't. I would definitely get what you're saying there, but with the caveat that we didn't have the people, the key decision-making people in place.
That you can continue on that. I think that's fine, and we're going to have to give the recruitment team time to bring the players in, and probably even more time than the summer. But it didn't take a genius to know that we needed a right back. It didn't take a genius to know that we needed.
We did get
on a free.
Yeah,
and then we just didn't. We failed. We just then decided to let Jake O'Brien. We did. A genius didn't take a genius to know that we needed a right winger. We probably needed a more of a suitable left back or a suitable left back backup. All these things.
Centre forwards being the big.
But we obviously tried to address the centre forward situation.
Now you can make the argument to say the quality side of it. You had Brozier, you had obviously Chimiti, you had Calvert-Lewin, and obviously Beto. So you had 4. So we've gone from 4 to 2. But that's not sustainable.
But okay,
go on, Gav, sorry.
But yeah, we're talking about the transfer window going forward, not what we've got. But what can we learn from that? The one thing we can learn is people going forward and not the people making the decisions in the summer. I think going back to Matt's point, I think I agree. But what the club wants to be, I think what I'm saying here is from the Freakins angle, what the club wants to be in the next 18 months is not necessarily what they want the club to be. When Moyes' contract ends, I think they might be 2 completely different things. What do you think? Bear in mind, there's a number of managers in the Premier League at the moment in the past who've had 1 year left on their contract, like we've seen with Dyche, and the final year of their contract can be a bit messy if they're still at the club.
Yeah.
What do you think that plays into how much money and attention Moyes would have in the summer if they know that actually the likelihood is we're not going to renew your contract, Davey? So say if they didn't get into Europe or something like that, how would they play it then, you think?
It shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't matter who the manager is.
I think it does. I agree with you, but I think it does. I think the level of uncertainty of your manager going into the last year of his contract with only 12 months left of not knowing that you're going to offer him another one, but you need to bring players in now. I do think it has a huge impact on, again,
but
philosophy.
You sign for the football club, you don't sign for the manager anymore. Like, for example, Tottenham have signed.
What have we been described as over the course of the past 10 years? A Frankenstein of a football team, because we've brought different managers in with different philosophies. We've tried this, we've tried a Koeman, we've tried a Marco Silva, we've tried an Ancelotti, we've been forced into an Allardyce who signed 2 players himself.
That's because we've had an owner that, let's make no mistake about it, was listening to too many people and having a massive influence on the football club itself. Agents, managers, his mates, whatnot. That's why that was run like that. But what I'm trying to say is that when as a recruitment team, I'd make an argument to say, you go and scout players, and you go, right, that's a good player. I think he'd fit in to the way I want Everton to play. The director of football, so to speak, we haven't got one. So you'd be saying, like, this is the way we want Everton to play, and this is the best players we can find. What I mean by that is that there's Tottenham there, signed Conor Gallagher today for about £35 million. I'll bet my bottom dollar that Thomas Frank won't be the manager in 12 months' time. He'll be gone.
Wow.
So he's not signing for them.
Get a bet on now.
He'd be lucky if he's in a job in a month's time. Tottenham fans can't stand him.
That doesn't necessarily mean that's right, though, does it? That's what we're saying, isn't it?
But they're signing a good player, they've got more faith in signing a quality midfielder.
Theo Walcott was a good player when we signed him.
He was coming to the end of his career. He's constantly injured, coming to the end of his career.
Just using him as an example. We signed a lot of good players who didn't. Sigurdsson, I mean, I'm sure there was probably a bad example to use.
No, it's a good example in terms of the amount that was generally speaking.
But we signed 3 number 10, 4 number 10.
There's a reason why loads of players ended up on a free, isn't it? And that's because the wages they got at Everton was far more than what they get elsewhere. So
exactly.
See, we can't sack that. That's a slightly different thing, isn't it? But
the argument is you sign players for the football club, not the manager.
Fit into the system.
When Bournemouth and Brentford and Brighton and Fulham and all these clubs in the Premier League, and even Liverpool, for example, they're not signing for Arne Slot. They're signing for Liverpool Football Club because they've got a strategy there in place.
You're not wrong. I think both things can be right though as well at the same time.
I get that. That only works though. And I totally get that. That only works if your next manager is going to be like David Moyes, doesn't it? If your next manager is going to completely different, if your manager is going to be completely different in his outlook and age or whatever and experience to Moyes, then that doesn't work, does it? I mean, the likes of Brentford and Brighton, they survive because their managers they come in and nothing changes, you know.
Because the recruitment teams are the best in the business.
Because the managers aren't in the style of play that they want. Is exactly the same as their skills for it is exactly the same as the predecessor. So Keith he's not done anything really that Thomas Frank didn't do at Brentford.
It's exactly the same.
It's exactly the same.
You've got good players, Gav. That's what it is.
Well, that's a slightly different thing. That's a different aspect to it, isn't it? But that only works about getting players into the system if the next manager is the same as Moyes. If he isn't, then that might not work.
You're basing it on, and I think you did say it, a director of football philosophy. And I'll be totally honest, I've got no problem with the director of football philosophy if it's implemented correctly. Obviously, you can see the benefits of working under Brighton, Bournemouth, Brentford. You know, they've lost the manager, and it's like he hasn't gone.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who's in charge of these clubs. Doesn't matter. I
don't think it's going to be like that with Moyes at this moment in time. Who is the least Moyes player who you think Moyes would least want to sign? I know that's putting you on the spot a little bit, but
I'm trying to understand the question.
Do you think out of the players that we've signed is the one that probably the most that he didn't want? Would you say?
Well, okay, let's go with that.
Tyler Dibbling.
Okay, let's move to the next summer. Say, for instance, use this as an example. If there's a bit of uncertainty or a bit of friction of what players they want to bring in, and the recruitment team want to bring this certain player in, but Moyes doesn't want him, but we bring him in anyway. Like, what does that say for Moyes?
You can only second guess that may have already happened. No. Who's to say that it hasn't already happened before? In the previous summer?
But that's the whole point of this muddled mishmash, I think, so far. Now, it sounds like I'm being critical of what we've done. I think we've done a lot of good as well. Yeah. But it goes back to, I'm picking on Matt's tweet and his point. We do need to decide what type of club that we are.
But I suspect that could have happened. And, you know, but the owners are prepared not only to do that in the longer term from when Moyes' contract finishes. And I think it's multifaceted, this, isn't it? It goes back to what I said before. Before Chris, what the fans want, what Moyes wants, and what the owners want are three completely different things.
Don't you think Moyes wants what the fans want?
100%.
No, because I'd say the right back, the fans just said, just bring us a right back in. We just want a right back. Moyes may turn around and say, well, I tell you what, the right backs that have been offered.
I mean the ambition.
It's when you want that ambition, isn't it? Really, I think people want it now.
You're talking short-term ambition. Short-term ambition.
But I think Moyes might want to. You know, it's not the end of the world if we don't qualify for Europe or whatever.
But his job's not under pressure. But in his own mind, I think he wants to qualify for Europe if he can win a trophy, and we're maybe on the verge or close to maybe getting into a European position. I know, obviously, that the past week has probably hindered that a little bit. Yeah. But Moyes wants to be a success in his second stint. He wants to win that trophy with Everton, doesn't he?
Well, of course he does. But
the best way of doing that. What's the best way of doing that? Probably qualifying for the Conference League
and winning that,
because we know the Premier League's probably a little bit far superior than maybe some
even
of
the FA Cup. As touched on there before, Crystal Palace are the nucleus of a very good side.
It's difficult. Harder to win the FA Cup than the Conference League.
That's my point. That's exactly what I mean.
But I think that it's a multifaceted thing, and you picked on a few issues there. For me, it's but we don't know what the owners want and stuff like this, and now that will depend how much money we get and what players we want, and goes back to Matt's.
Do you want more from the owners, Gav?
Sorry, and so that's the first. And the second point is, Tony, what you touched on there is once. And then you get that friction, don't you? Potential friction between what the owners, director, technical director, CEO, what they want, and what Moyes wants as a player. They can be two different things, can't we? So it's quite a complicated thing, and I think, me personally, I think in that environment, we said about the squad being a Frankenstein monster. In some respects, the manager and the the rest of the committee or whatever, and the rest of the people, they're a little bit of they're a mismatch, aren't they? Moyes has been quite vocal in the past, like even just before he joined Everton, that the manager should have the control, and he doesn't like interference and stuff like this. He said that in an interview about 6 months before he became the manager, where they want the control, but to consult with the manager. So that's a bit of a mismatch, isn't it? And I think in that environment, I think the free kids may just keep the powder dry for 18 months.
Just for context, in case people don't know, because I know people can forget, but the recruitment team consists of Director of Scouting and Recruitment James Smith, Technical Director Nick Cox, Head of Football Strategy and Analytics Chris Howarth, Head of Player Trading Nick Hammond, and the Chief Executive Officer Angus Kinnear, and obviously David Moyes. I mean, who is the most important person, other than the manager, I guess, in all of that?
I'd say, this sounds probably ridiculous, but I'd say the scouting. Whoever's the head of scouting.
So James Smith.
Yeah. I'd say he's the most.
That's a very good answer.
He's the most important.
Yeah, that's a good answer, yeah.
You live and die by his role as a football club, your recruitment. It does.
No pressure on James.
No, it's not. That's a fact. That is a fact. It's no telling lies. How you recruit is how you'll get on in the league, how you'll get on in cup competitions. It's how you'll get through PSR. If you can go and find gems, the likes of your Brentfords have touched on, and your Brightons and your Bournemouths and your Fulhams, and you can continue to find these gems and sell them on, that's sustainable for you as a business model to progress each single year.
Go on. Moyes has worked with them as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
The only thing I'd say, just the case for defence, and probably to play a bit of devil's advocate, and this is defending maybe some of the past recruitment that we've done. We know it's been shocking, but we have found a couple of gems. Illiman and Dye.
A lot of averages if you throw enough darts.
No, I know, but I'm just saying we always go, well, why can Brentford find this player? Why can Brighton find this player?
They do it on a consistent basis.
You are right. I'm just saying, obviously, Illiman and Dye is obviously the huge upside, what he's presented to us over the course of the past 12 to 18 months. Branthwaite's there. I don't know who else is there. Come on. There's got to be one or two
James
others.
Garner would be a good shout there, wouldn't he?
Yeah. So it's not like we've been poor, but there has been a couple of upsides, I think.
O'Brien would be a good 17 million for O'Brien.
Definitely,
he's Premier League proven player.
I think that
if you throw enough darts at the board, you'll get a treble.
Oh, come on,
no, seriously.
I think we're being disparaging. Sorry, I think we're being a bit disparaging.
That's what I mean.
Recruitment of our last in the third world time. I think we've been
horrendous.
No, I disagree.
Horrendous.
Certain ones, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there's been, what's it called, Onana. There's another one. So that 2 year period from 22, 23 to 20 until Mantawa left. I wouldn't say our recruitment was disastrous. I thought our recruitment was quite good in terms of the players we brought in, the players we got in and then sold.
And we were dealing with a team, obviously referring to Everton, who was struggling to bring players in as well.
The question there, I think
Beto, Schmidt, Harrison on loan, Lindstrom on loan.
I think Harrison and Lindstrom on loan. If you see the Everton at the end of last season, when we got 31 points from 19 games and the Moyes were good. To be fair,
I think it's not all been. We've got a couple of gems. I think
over the last 10 years, our recruitment has been as bad as anyone's in the Premier League.
You're referring back to when Mashiri was there.
When do you want to go back to?
We're going backwards. We should be looking.
I know. All right, forget it.
We're looking. We should be looking.
I was just trying to play.
My argument is that when you, as a recruitment team, when you obviously ask the question, who's the most important? Scouting. You go and employ the best scouts. Listen, I'm a grassroots coach and I watch scouts watching under 7s, under 8s, under 9s on a consistent basis, and you're seeing them. And Manchester City, you're all over the Northwest. You've got, isn't there scouts in the Manchester United team at the moment who's played in the FA Cup at the weekend? That's where they're all at. They're watching kids. And look at us, for Armstrong at the moment is a prime example of that. And I think it's a big thing, a man that's been neglected over the past 5 or 10 years in terms of Everton's academy. How successful that was compared to where it is right now. That's a big thing.
That's a separate discussion, isn't it? Of course it is. We're just talking about transfer windows here, aren't we?
But you can't neglect that because that's what we've done under the Mashiri era. We just abandoned.
You know what I'm saying? That's part of the Freakins. Look, as the forward look like from 18 months' time, and going back to what Matt was saying there. What the club wants to be. Yeah, we want to be. We bring academy graduates through and all that and stuff. But that takes time, doesn't it? Like that Chris Howarth. They've got his data company, haven't they? But that takes time to develop the data model that Brentford and Brighton have had for years. I think the other question about who's the most important person in that group is ultimately, somebody's got to sign her off, haven't they? Somebody's got to sign her off, and that's not necessarily the manager.
It's Kinnear, isn't it? It's the CEO.
You know, and or maybe Hammond, possibly.
But he's the
it is
negotiator.
And it wouldn't surprise me, and you touched on this before, so years. When you get a situation like that, I want player X, but I want player Y. You end up coming to compromise, don't you? So what you can give me, I don't know, give me Kieran Dewsbury Hall, and I'll give you Tyler Diblin.
Yeah.
That's
what I wouldn't be surprised if
that can't be a good way of doing things.
It's not, but sometimes it's like horse trading, isn't it? That's what sometimes happens.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. It's happened before with Moshiri when we signed them 3 number 10s. Like, you have Sigurdsson, I'll have Rooney, you sign Klassen.
Well,
that's why we're
only going to end up with a Frankenstein's monster of a team again.
That's where you've all got to be on the same page and go, hang on, well, can we afford... And this is where you're only second guessing. David Moyes has went, yeah, okay, I'll sign Dibbling and I'll work with him. What's he about? What's his personality about? And you've got to do your due diligence on these players.
We're not saying that's like Amber. I'm not saying that that's what's happening now and that's a weakness. I'm just saying that type of thing can happen. I mean, it's all very... I think people say, like, I think Kinnear said this, hasn't he? David Moyes signs off the player, but David Moyes, and this goes back to your point, Scott, about continuity of what you want. David Moyes doesn't have to, is in no position to sign off the long-term strategy, transfer strategy, the football club, isn't he? And I think that's the issue, isn't it? He'll sign a player off with it who's been given to him as part of that strategy.
What's Dibbling's contract? 5 years. Moyes isn't going to be here in 5 years. So why would Moyes sign off a player with 5-year contract?
Well, yeah, and so this is the danger, isn't it, of the way... Sometimes, especially at the start, the way things can happen. After a while, people get used to ways of working, don't they? And sort of understand as well. I tell you what, we won't give that to the manager because we know we won't like him anyway. We'll do something different. But there's a real danger to get into bartering and horse trading when you have a committee like that. I'm not saying it's happening, but that's
sorry, Gav, when you mentioned committee, I just like envisions like being in a social club and all these fellas in flat caps just being on a committee board.
We'll tap us in the social club. Yeah.
I've got a comment here from Ken Spray, who's having a go at us for not reading out his comments because he's donated £1.99 for this comment.
Oof.
How does that work?
It's something super chat.
Do you need to tell us something where the money's going here? Eh?
Not in my back pocket, I can assure you. So he says, Kinnear has said Moyes rejects 99% of targets.
And with the
Ken, I've read your comments out. Thanks for the £1.99 donation.
But I think most of it being... You can't
so what's he said? Kinnear...
Well, this is Moyes' comment.
Yeah, he said that, didn't he? But the thing is, and that's right, but the thing is, how does that compare to other managers? I would imagine most managers probably reject 99% of targets. It's not going to. 99% is probably a exaggeration. But I would imagine if you give a list of players to a manager, they say, "I don't want that."
Is that Moyes just saying, "Well, he's not good enough. We want better."
Don't forget, Moyes has been around the block here. He'll have been in the ear of every manager in the Premier League, what the personality is about. He's an old school manager, David Moyes, by the way. We haven't got an Anna in him, say for argument's sake, who's been here 5 minutes, or a new manager. Moyes has been around the Premier League for a long period of time. He'll have known every agent under the sun. His brother's an agent himself. Yeah. He knows the industry, the business, inside out. So when a scout or a CEO or whoever comes out with a list of players to him, he'll have no, I've heard bad stories about that kid, or I don't like his attitude. I've seen him down tools for this manager. So you can only second guess what Moyes would be like. He's an old school type of manager who's been round the block.
Would that being the case then, does the Diblin transfer, bearing in mind everything that went on in the summer with us trying to find a right midfielder, because let's face it, he wasn't number one priority. Was that not a bit of a panic? A panic buy, do you think?
I don't think it was more of a David Moyes signing, personally. I really don't.
But it seemed to be a case of we've got this young 19-year-old or 18 at the time, whatever. He's the next big thing. He's done it at Southampton. He's played English football, Premier League experience, and that seemed to be the profile of the player. And he's a player that's obviously going to get better over time. That's not been the case since he's come here. I don't know. It just seemed like
if that was the case, he would have been. I'm only guessing if Moyes would have been a big advocate of this signing, he would have been featuring a hell of a lot more.
Well,
a hell of a lot.
I don't know if
more.
that's the case.
Hasn't he fall into that category?
Well, Asney was bought as a left back, hasn't he? And obviously, he hasn't been the case. He hasn't had to look in, and he's not up to Premier League standards. And I know we're struggling with Mikalenko, but I don't like this argument of David Moyes and his use of youngsters. It's the biggest myth in football going. It really is. His handling of youngsters.
What youngsters has he actually brought? He wasn't great with Rooney.
He wasn't great with Rooney. He went on to have the best career he's ever had.
Rooney was like left on acrimonious circumstances.
Okay, so Rooney playing at 16-year-olds in the Premier League. With anyone who's down the Premier League right now, there's not many.
Well, but not everybody in the Premier League's like Wayne Rooney, are they? I mean,
well, okay, all right.
Me and you could have managed Wayne Rooney for a couple of years.
So did he not?
Plenty of examples.
Tony Abbott, Leon Osman. Was they young?
No, Ozzy came to the club when he was 20. When he was 20.
I don't know who give them the chance and let them blossom in the roles.
I don't think he's had a track record.
Ozzy was 22.
How old was Seamus Coleman?
Well, Seamus Coleman was 22 when he started playing.
Jack Rodswell, Victor Andeshibi, James Vaughan.
Yeah, but Rodswell and Andeshibi.
I know, he signed Madam Fellaini. He broke the record for him at 21 years of age.
Fellaini was 21.
I broke the record for him.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference between 21. We spoke about this in the pod the other week. There's a difference between 21 and if like Fellaini played in Europe and stuff, hadn't he? There's a difference between 21 and somebody who's 18, 19.
So did he not handle Madam Fellaini at 21 arguably better than...
No, but that's a bad example.
All right, okay, I'll give you the best example.
19.
Arguably one of the best players playing in the Premier League right now is Declan Rice. Who nurtured him at 18 years of age?
No, but it wasn't Moyes. Declan Rice had played for England before Moyes had gone to West Ham.
He was 18 years of age when he was given his debut by David Moyes.
No, he wasn't.
He was.
Okay, yeah, but Moyes left then.
Jarrad Bowen, Addison Armstrong. I could list a list.
No, I don't know. Jarrad Bowen was like
21 he was.
All right, okay. We're not going to go. We're going down a rabbit hole here.
That's fine.
I've just listed a list of young players.
No, they're not.
Who, from ages 16 from Rooney to 21 in Bowen and Fellaini. And the careers that they've gone on to have, thanks to obviously Moyes being the coach.
Yeah, okay. Well, no, I think if
you're good enough, the best type of players that Moyes has brought out is like an Arteta, a Pienaar, players who are coming on to the mid-20s, a Baines. There's plenty more that I can't think of.
So you don't think that Rooney and Rice, arguably the two best products of English football, that Moyes has not had a big impact on their careers?
Rice was 21 when Moyes came back to the club.
Yeah,
so he'd already played for England.
Yeah,
so that's not like
it's not as a big factor on his career.
No, that of course he has. But what we're talking about is somebody who's unproven, or like a Diblin who needs close management.
Diblin's been proven, Gav.
No. Take for 90. We're going to go round and say what we're saying is Moyes, and this is just a track record. His big strength as a manager is taking players with 22, 23 or early 20s and making them into who are good players who've got experience, 2 years experience, whatever, showing that they're capable, and then turn them into very good stroke top players at 27, 26, 27.
I agree with that.
That's what his strength is. Right, okay. And, and this goes back to what we're talking about, isn't it, really, from the transfer strategy? He'll want them players, but actually, the transfer committee may want a Tyler Diblin, Barry's 23.
That's just our perception, though, isn't it?
But if Tyler Dibling's good enough, he'll play him. And at this moment, he's not good enough. Yeah, I just said he was playing Declan Rice at 18.
I think there's ways to integrate players into the team.
No, but he's done this with Rice and Rooney. Playing them at 17 years of age, 18, week in, week out. He was playing 16-year-olds. Jose Baxter. The list is endless, the amount of kids he's give faith in. And if you're good enough, that manager will play you 100%. The list is proven. You go and ask Declan Rice and Wayne Rooney to David Moyes have a big impact on your career.
Of course, he's going
to
say
get a massive. Of course.
So that's
what I'm trying to say. So it's the biggest myth going that he's not got faith in youngsters or he's got a bad track record.
I tell you, he's got a track record of bombing youngsters out of the team if they make one bad mistake.
It's not one bad mistake, is it? He's been given ample opportunities this season. And do you know what with Tyler Dibbling? And it's not as if I'm making a pick on him. It's his application on the pitch. Yeah. Now, Harrison Armstrong has been in that team 5 minutes. He's covered every blade of grass. He's making things happen. He's barking instructions to senior pros.
Also been played regularly at Derby and Preston.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And did Tyler Dibbling not play regularly for Southampton last season? Well, you haven't just signed a lad from foreign shores here.
No,
you've spent a hell of a lot of money and time
different though, isn't
on a
it?
19-year-old.
It's different. I think that's a completely different situation.
No, it's your attitude. That's what I'm saying.
No, of course it's attitude, and I agree with you that his attitude.
So is he working
great,
hard?
But if your confidence is low and you've got a level of anxiety,
but at least work hard.
Well, I don't disagree with you.
That's my
but
argument.
What the point is confidence is low. I whatever I do for a job or whatever I'm doing at the time, if my confidence is low and I've got anxiety about it, I'm probably not going to do a good job. I'm probably going to want to get out of that situation completely.
Yeah. Well, one thing
and that's all down to how he's being used.
So your manager say, just work hard for me. Show something, and he's not. And that's the argument here. He's not showing anything on the pitch.
I don't know what the argument is anymore, to be honest. We're being told to calm down by the guests.
Stick that on a meme or whatever it is. That'll get
I think
traction.
That's the thing that's winding up.
I think what you're saying now, Scotty, and you're right, isn't it? Like,
it's your application on the pitch, 100%.
I know, and that sort of, goes back to the young player thing, doesn't it, really? But I do think what we've shown, isn't it, is that there is obviously going to be in the transfer room or whatever, in the committee room,
the committee.
We said this before Christmas, a month before Christmas. What they think are good players to take the club forward and what Moyes wants are two completely different things, and that's going to cause a problem. Said that at the start of December. Added into that, the second layer is Moyes has only got 18 months left on his contract. Or maybe look at it the other way, 6 months before he's got 12 months on his contract. And then the third thing is, within all that, we don't know what the Freakin's longer term plans are, how much is actually going to be being spent. And to me, there are three different factors that needs to be baked into the conversation, and how they are baked in some respects, we just don't know at this stage, do we?
And one thing you're going to say about obviously the youngsters and all the players that we've bought, each player will blossom at a different time of their career. I fully understand that, especially young players. You only have to look at Harry Kane and Jamie Vardy. They were sitting on Leicester's bench for a large period of time.
10 years ago, the game changed.
Of course, and I fully understand that. Like, it was Illiman and Dye was playing for Boreham Wood. Couldn't get a look in there. So obviously players' careers will tail off and blossom at different... I understand that. But the problem is that when you're on that pitch, you've got to work hard 100%. And if you're not working hard, your manager can't justify your place in the team.
No one's disputing that. What I would say, last point on
this...
Sorry,
I think Scott's right. From what he's saying about, I don't think Moyes brings young players through. With Dublin, it's not the case that actually Moyes can't bring young players through. Diblin's not showing them anything to justify and picking them.
Whereas Armstrong is.
Yeah, and I think it's just being interesting, but it's a multi-faceted thing. This isn't it? Several layers.
You've said that about 10 times now, Gav.
He wants a place on the committee.
It's a multifaceted podcast. That's what it is.
Just to remind everybody, that's what we're here to talk about.
It is,
I think I completely agree with you with the working hard. He's got to do more. I think Chris made the point about Dublin in that, well, at the same age, Grealish was playing in League One and Illiman and Dye wasn't even getting game for Boreham Wood. But again, that reverts back to this is on the recruitment team for signing a 19-year-old player in Tyler Dublin who was obviously almost unproven, and the pressure is absolutely huge on him. And another thing I'll say is I don't think it's a good look from Dublin's point of view if a McNeil is getting in ahead of you in the team. You know what I'm saying? I'd be annoyed at that, regardless of whether you're working hard or not, because you want your winger predominantly. Obviously, he's got to work hard, he's got to track back, but you want your winger to be scoring the goals, creating assists. What's Dwight McNeil done to deserve a place in that team?
I agree with you.
Me.
So
I'd be annoyed if I was Dublin. I can understand as a youngster thinking back on 19. Well, Dwight McNeil, how's he getting in ahead of me? Do you know what I mean? So I'm sure.
And listen, obviously I coach a kids team at the moment, and I understand like each kid has a different needs, and obviously how they are interacting and communicating with them. And I understand like obviously you don't raise your voice at one, you can put an arm around the shoulder. I fully understand each kid's difference in terms of the personality and approach. But at the same token, once they cross the white line, you'd expect 100% work rate on the pitch. And that's the fundamental. That's the big fundamental we ask for.
All agree on that. Well, we're going to finish off now, and we've had loads of comments.
I'm going
to try and read a couple out.
If you viewed it and watched it, I think we need to ask for a few comments.
It's hard for me when I'm trying to listen to what you're spouting, the both of you. I'm trying to listen and respond back, and then read the comments. It's hard to keep on track. I'm producing and hosting all at the same time. I should be getting paid more money than
on the committee.
Don't get me started. Okay, I've made a note of a couple. So Blue 1984 says, we've done well this season. Yes, the wheels have come off recently, but look at the injury list. We've literally had half of our starting 11 unavailable, and that's before mentioning 9 out from the squad. So I think that's that's the one positive that you can take from it all, isn't it? That we've got a huge amount of players to come back who we know are going to have an impact over the next couple of weeks. This is obviously an interesting point with what's happened to West Ham. So it's NZ Everton fan, I assume that's New Zealand Everton fan, says we need to be very careful about thinking past Moyes. West Ham wish they hadn't. Watching a video on Moyes being promised the world at Man United, then given limited funds, did him there. I mean, that's my only concern is thinking past Moyes. I mean, you just look at West Ham now. Grass is not always greener.
United
on the other side.
Chelsea.
I think West Ham's probably the case in point. Moyes delivered the European trophy. Okay, it was one of the lesser European trophies, but he was still consistently finishing 7th, 8th, top half of the Premier League. And it's very hard. In many ways, it's easier to do that than then get to the next level.
But there's a warning there. See Moyes' results in his final year at West Ham when he was going.
They knew he was going, though. The players knew he was going. Yeah, they knew he was going.
They got some really heavy pace and get beat 6-0 by Arsenal and stuff.
Didn't he have a sporting director he didn't fancy? And the players knew he was going anyway.
But there's a lesson there.
Probably a good time to finish now. If you can hear that drilling in the background. Go on, you can finish off, Gav.
It's your stomach off, so
No, it's not.
No, but anymore. Just a couple more. I think if people have...
Well, I haven't made a note of any others. Iron Blue Nose disagrees with me and says McNeil deserves his place more than Dibran currently.
Okay. I agree.
Only as he's shown some effort.
That's the thing.
It's not great, but our squad is what it is until it gets better.
Yeah.
I mean, what effort though? I semi-disagree with it, to be totally honest.
You're showing commitment.
He runs around the pitch.
But that's the bare minimum. But
his head down, struggles like he's running through mud. I'm being really critical of him, but I
understand what you're trying to say. But the same token, that's what you've got to do. That's your bare minimum as a professional footballer. Once you cross that white line on the pitch, work hard. And to me, and to a lot of Evertonians, watch your Tyler Dibling at the moment, he's not doing that.
Right, case for defence for McNeil. Playing out of position, the most left-footed winger playing on the right-hand side. If that's not the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, I don't know what it is.
He's probably working harder than.
Gav's desperate for more comments.
No, I just think if people want to hear the questions rather than just
listen to us
on for another 5 minutes.
I'm trying to get them to pay for that super comment thing. That's what it is.
That's what it is now, isn't it?
Eltel says Moyes won't see his contract out. He's just an upgrade from Dyche.
The thing. Obviously, I've heard that several times.
Yeah.
So what level do we go down next? If once Moyes goes, do we go for the young up-and-coming manager? We've had our fingers burned many times before with Marco Silva, Roberto Martinez, or do we go with the...
It's a whole new podcast in itself, isn't it? But I don't know what the answer is to that because we've had every single type of manager.
We might get some clues to that in the transfer activity in the next 18 months.
Well, we've had every single type of manager and then we've had to be forced to revert back to the manager who was obviously the most successful in Premier League era.
Yeah.
So
maybe other than Joe Royle.
So what works for us?
Oh, the Moyes is most successful in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Sorry, well, I'm referring to winning the trophy.
Yeah. All due respect to Jack.
And when you look at it right now in the Premier League, is Moyes one of the top 8 managers in the Premier League?
Well, 100% he wouldn't have come to us if he didn't have. I'm sure we will revisit this topic at some point in the next couple of weeks.
Us what they think of the podcast, by the way. I think.
All right, well, that is all for today's show. Thank you for everyone who has joined on the live stream, and thank you for everyone who's listened on Apple Pods as well as Spotify. Wherever you get your podcast, please remember to give us a like and subscribe. I've been Ian Croll, joined by Gavin Buckland and Tony Scott, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.